All right. Who's got the first question? John?
Well done, sir. Well done. Well, listen, I think we're all still buzzing about the UFC 253 from this past weekend. So before we move to this week's card, give us your thoughts. What did you take away from Israel Adesanya? Because I think what everybody's trying to figure out, did Adesanya do something amazing, or did Paulo Costa not show up?
I know.
What did you take out of it?
You know, if you watch that betting show that we do on UFC Fight Pass, Yanni the Greek said his bet on Israel was the biggest sports bet he made in several years. So it's like the sharps are sharp for a reason. You know, I was, and several others on the crew were kind of like, is he going to get tested? You know, is Costa going to just close him down? Costa just closed him down like twice, and then, you know, Adesanya ducked out of the way, and how good was his movement at that point after eating some of those early leg kicks. So I was certainly surprised, but like, you have to credit Adesanya. I mean, it's certainly curious, the game plan of Paulo Costa, and I think his coaches were even curious about it. But, you know, I'm not going to take away anything from the champ after that.
Yeah. So the name John Jones is getting brought up a lot after 253, right? John Jones versus Adesanya, John Jones versus Jan Blachowicz, John Jones still at heavyweight versus, you know, the Bane and Ghana winner. So if they were asking you to make the call and say, hey, which one would be most exciting for you?
That'd be a fun world. Man, I don't know. I think Jones against Stipe is like certainly like this super fight that a lot of people want to see, and there's a lot of juice on that. Jones against Blachowicz, he was saying he was happy for him, but now he's saying like, maybe I'll get my belt back, you know? So maybe did he see a path to victory against Jan, and he didn't want to gamble against Reyes again because of how the first time went around? And against Adesanya, like that's a cool fight too. I think Adesanya Jones is like two big stars that are gonna talk the talk and they're gonna build it up, and that would be a mega event. But Adesanya is like, I don't want to call him skinny, but right, he's not a big middleweight. So going against a guy like Jones, who's, you know, gonna move up to heavyweight supposedly, then I don't know. I think Jones and Stipe is just that's a can't miss fight.
Pretty crazy. What's we've been asking all the fighters, what's it like for them to do their job in these venues? You've been doing it for a while now too. It's different. What's your take on, you know, having to work inside these fanless venues?
Right. It's not bad. I mean, I miss the fans because it's cool to get dressed in the back and get ready for the show. And I know that we're not fighting and we're not playing a football game and all that, but to walk out of the tunnel into an arena and kind of put on the headset and get ready to go, there's a game day feeling to that you kind of miss, certainly without a crowd. And I just miss the tension that the crowd provides, and just like when you can sit back and wait for the main event walks and you can kind of like live in that moment. Like, our job has been great all night, whatever. Now we get to sit back at 5 minutes and take in the arena before we kind of call the fight. So I really miss it. But as far as like once you're in the call of the fight, it's not too noticeable to me. I mean, the biggest thing that's noticeable is when you have a huge knockout or a big finish and you kind of have your outburst, oh, there's the tap, whatever, and then it's silent, right? And you usually lay out there and there's a big, you know, reaction, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that slapped me in the face when Charles Oliveira did that in Brasilia,
right.
And it was just kind of like, this place would have had the roof blown off of it, right. You know, and instead it's just kind of like silent and you hear that. So that's the biggest difference. But as far as like in the fight and calling it, I think you just got to keep the headphones on, and, you know, we hear the music of the broadcast and all those other sort of things. You just got to kind of live in that world.
Nice. So I want to ask you about this week's main event with Holman Aldana. As you're kind of breaking down, getting ready for it, like, what's the most intriguing things that you're seeing as far as, you know, what's standing out to how they're going to match up?
I just think the big story is like, if Holly has an impressive win, it's like she's not going anywhere. You know, she doesn't want to. I did a feature on her that'll come out later this week, and she's like, everybody has an opinion of a 38-year-old woman with no kids who's a professional athlete and all that stuff, you know. And it just kind of to sit there and chat with her about like, I want the belt, I want to keep fighting the best. You know, the results haven't gone my way, but I'm fighting Cyborg and Nunes and these great fighters. So to stop Aldana, if she's able to stop Aldana, I think that says a lot. And for Aldana, it's like the arrival of a new contender, you know, new blood, because Nunes has been so good that do we have another one that gives it a go. I think that it's kind of a bantamweight Grand Prix in the top 6 coming up this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's very true. And the last thing for me, I want to ask you about like any other names that stand out, like anybody on tape or personalities or anything that maybe people aren't don't have on their radar that they should be looking forward to this weekend.
Charles Jourdain is he's awesome, man. He's such a nice kid. He's young. He's really good. He's exciting. He he basically says like this is not a marathon career. This is a sprint career. We're out here fighting. I'm 24 years old. I gotta get in and do it while I can and do it while I'm at the top of my game. And his last fight against Feely was really good. I'm interested to see how he grows from that, because that was the first time he took an L from like a non-wrestler. But like he's there to be exciting. And for Josh Kulabau, I get the similar sense from him, and he fights up a weight class in New Zealand against Jalen Turner, the tallest lightweight in the division. So for him to come back to 145, and I think that's a fun fight.
I was going to ask you, obviously, that I think Israel winning might not necessarily have been a surprise, but probably the
way right.
Was that more surprising to you, or was Jan defeating Reyes in the manner he did more surprising?
No, I thought Jan had the ability to do that. I mean, he's done that to a lot of people over the last few fights. Knockouts in 3 of his last 4 wins, and sitting at that plus 200 underdog price in like 7 of his last 8 wins. I think he's won 8 of 9. Like, I think a lot of people were happy to get that plus 200 on Jan Blachowicz, and they, he's so experienced, 37 years old. He's got a big old head. Like, Dom Reyes has been this prospect on the rise, but had half of the fights, I think, that Blachowicz did. So I thought I didn't guarantee a win or anything like that. I wasn't picking Blachowicz necessarily to win, but I absolutely thought if he was going to win, then that's absolutely probably a likelihood that he could do it that way. And for Adesanya, I think everyone expected a finish in that fight. We just didn't know how it was going to come.
Do you think Dom respected Jan's power too much to rush him like he did against John? Against John, he was very, very active in the first round, and then this one he almost seemed timid in the first round. He didn't quite know how to get in.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that in advance of the fight, Reyes kind of was like, yeah, I wish I had more than 6 weeks to prepare. And Blachowicz was like, we both had 6 weeks to prepare. What's the big deal? So, was he in his head about his preparation in terms of, another title fight? And how much did he learn in the first one? You can learn in a loss, but it can also play with your head, especially if it's a fight that you were so confident that you won that you didn't win. So how do you attack the next one? I mean, I don't think it's the first or the last time that you see a different approach that maybe doesn't work, especially for a guy that is still fine. He's got 13 fights. He'll be back. He'll be here for a long time.
Do you think there's something to be said that it's kind of hard to get motivated to fight Jan when you're convinced you just beat the greatest of all time?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you'd have to ask him that, but like, yeah, that's gotta. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it's like. I'm working with Angela Hill this weekend too, and last week, and it's like she's coming off of 2 split decisions that she feels that she won against Michelle and Claudia, 2 of the best in her weight class. It's like, how is she feeling? You guys can ask her how she's feeling when she comes down later. But, like to deal with that is like, it's got to be tough to just, you're talking about one judge's scorecards. And I see it when I prepare for fights all the time, where it's like you'll see their last 5 results. And it's just like, man, where would this person have been if one judge sees one round a different way in like, 3 of their last 6 fights? It's like all of a sudden there might be a 4 next to their name instead of a 14 or something, So, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to kind of go in with that mental pressure in addition to the fact that you got to fight someone. That's all something that we can't really speak to.
Yeah. What did you make of Izzy's celebration, the dry humping and everything? He seems to believe there's a double standard. Like if it was anyone else that didn't look like him, it wouldn't be as big of a deal.
We're talking about it, so I like it. I know the martial arts code is something that's different, but at the end of the day, like this is a sport, and pro sports at the end of the day are for entertainment. It's competition for them, and it's a way to make a living for them. But for all of us watching, it's entertainment. And I'm as Rogan said it a few months back, we're professional fans. Like we sit in the front and. Would I be upset if I was Costa's team and in the code of the martial artist and all that? Yeah, probably. But then that's another storyline of like, and then, people who are Izzy fans are like, yeah, man, he's got so much swagger and so much confidence, and he'll do whatever the hell he wants, and people love those types of guys too. So,
do you think there is a double standard when it comes to fighters like Izzy, and then you see fighters like Colby saying all these things, and people kind of like,
no,
yeah, he's right, and then Izzy comes out?
I guess I haven't been on social media the last few days to know that there's so much hate with it.
Sure.
I think Colby's getting plenty of hate, as he often does, and he's fine with that. For Israel, I think that getting a little hate, he's probably fine with that too. It kind of makes him go. If you're not getting hated on, then that's not a great sign in the fight game. You know, it's like the more haters you get, the more you're striking a chord, and probably the more loyal your fans are too. So I think it's what makes the fight game fun.
There are 4 cards left on Fight Island.
Yeah.
Is there a particular fight that you're looking forward the most?
Really wish I was here for Ortega and Zombie. I mean, obviously the pay-per-view is going to be insane and whatever, but I was in Korea last year to call that fight, which ended up being Frankie Edgar against Zombie. I think I've called like 3 Zombie fights. One was the Yair Rodriguez one. The other one was in Korea, and then the other one was against Moicano. So it's like you put Zombie on a card, and it's just the most exciting thing to call. And Brian Ortega is awesome. I'm excited to see how he responds after like 2 years away. And there's some heat on it now. And Ortega was going to be the favorite last December, but now Zombie's the favorite. Like, I wish I was here for that one. I'll be certainly on my couch watching that one at home.
So 2020 has been a crazy year.
Yeah.
Everywhere, for everyone. Was there something, a fight or something that stands out the most for you this year, or just like the whole Fight Island thing or something else?
Being in Brasilia was weird. It was crazy. I got on a flight from Las Vegas to New York, and on that flight I was like watching TV, and that's when like the college basketball conference tournament started getting canceled. That's when the NBA announced like there was going to be no fans starting the next day. Like, stuff was happening in that 4 hours. I landed in New York, and I called my boss, and I said, should I get on this plane to Brazil? You know, because then it's like, what's going to happen in the next 3-4 days? And at that point, the fans were still scheduled to go, you know, that we hadn't even called off the fans. He's like, the event's happening, get on that plane. So, you know, that was, like, I think we've all learned how to deal with it. And, the more that we live in this situation, like the more we know to deal with it, and we see how we can take precautions and all that other stuff. But back then we didn't. So to fly down to Brazil and to call an event and to not know what to expect was it was stressful. And we got the show done. I was super proud to have done it and get back. And then I've been proud of the UFC to like handle things the way we have. Early on, I was like, I think I work for the right guy in terms of job security, and that we're going to keep the show going. And I've been happy to, but that first one, just because there was so much unknown, I'll remember that weekend a lot because I was sitting in my room a lot. It's just like, what's going to happen next?
Jose stole my question, but I have another one.
Yeah.
So Paulo Costa, he's been saying on social media that he wants to fight Adesanya again, especially after he saw the video what Adesanya did after he won. We're not sure. I mean, Dana will say if he deserves another shot and stuff like that. But do you think eventually they will face each other again? Do you think Adesanya will keep this belt for a long time, and maybe in the future we're going to see those two?
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, like, they're young enough where they're not going anywhere for a while. It's not like one of them's 36 years old and going to call it quits soon. It's like they're there. I think Adesanya wants to be a busy champion. I think Costa probably learned a lot. Like, if you never lose, you can't learn those lessons. He's just blitzed people and just run through them. And so now he faced a certain level of competition where it didn't work out, or whatever his game plan was, he's going to have to tweak it. I absolutely think that they'll match up again in the future at some point, but I don't think it'll be next. I think Costa's got to earn it after his performance. He's got to go back and earn it a little bit, but I'm excited for Adesanya. Like, busy champions are awesome, especially that have the name like him and the personality like him, and he's trying to be great and match Anderson Silva, and there's guys coming up at 185 that are going to give him those tests, but give him the ability to maybe break those records. So it's exciting.
And now the trash talk, of course, it makes a lot of noise on social media. We like seeing that. And we see a lot of fighters that don't like the trash talk. They don't
Right.
like to do that. Do you think like whoever likes the trash talk, it makes fighters more successful because they like to make some noise on social media, or it doesn't matter? It matters what they do.
I think there's no way to quantify what's going to work. There's just no way. And it's just like, when I called Sean O'Malley's fight on the Contender Series in 2017, he was like, I think I'm going to be a household name. Did I think he was going to be a household name, like the skinny kid with a fro and whatever? But it's like he's had this personality that and it's him, but it's like you just don't know what's going to work, you know what I mean? And so he's cut through, and then, Cowboy is Cowboy. There's no one thing. Colby's got his own thing going, and it's like him or hate him, he moves the needle. Nate Diaz is the total opposite. He's largely silent, but then when he speaks, everyone listens, and he smokes a CBD joint at open workouts. Like, there's no way to know what's going to cut through, but certainly, you still gotta kind of have a certain something, that's going to register with certain people. And I applaud those fighters that, because they're putting themselves out there, and that's not always the easiest to do. It's like I'm kind of in a forward-facing role, but I keep plenty of my opinions to myself so that I don't, shut off one end of the spectrum. Like, I'm here to call fights and hope the fans like it. But those fighters, it's like they're taking risks when they do that sort of stuff. So, when it works, it's a fun thing.
Last one, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You commentate a lot of fights with fellow fighters, but you haven't fought in UFC.
I haven't? Maybe one day.
Do you think it's inevitable that we will get a female commentator, in a position like yours, where they aren't a former fighter, but they will be like a commentator?
Oh, like a play-by-play announcer.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know of the person right now, but I'd be stupid to say no, it's never going to happen. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to try to shut up. I love my job. I love doing it. Beth Mowens calls college football games and has called an NFL game, and I've worked with mostly women analysts, because if I'm working, I'm not the analyst or whatever. But I mean, there's I've seen women refs and coaches in the NFL and all that sort of stuff. I'd be silly to sit up here and be like, well, a woman couldn't do my job. It wouldn't sound right. No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's got to happen at some point.